Hello fellow YouTubers. I'm just watching a story on the current affairs program. I watch it all the time, 5 nights a week. They're talking about the ice epidemic here in Australia, and it is an epidemic. And here's about a son who just punched his mother in the face, fractured an eye socket and a cheekbone, and had to go to the police, and the police will arrest him, and evidently it's going to be a bit of a struggle from what I've already seen. But yeah, it's very, very sad. It's sad indeed.
I survive on it. She's been having to hide valuable items around the house and receives regular abuse from her daughter, mostly via text message.
But that's not her talking, I know that's the drug talking. People can't believe that she is doing what she's doing. We're all shocked. Every day I go, it's like I'm going to hear one of them.
I'll be back shortly.
Or
I'm back. Yes. Terrible thing, that ice, isn't it? Like a lot of other drugs. Yes. It ruins not only the person themselves, but their families as well, and friends. They're terrible. It's Monday today, September 17th, and I didn't upload yesterday. I explained to my friend Dill that I had a job to do. I expected it to only take about an hour, but it ended up taking most of the day. Oh, so annoying. Just little things just kept going wrong. I'm sure many of you have been there and done that. I was thinking of reading something from This Is My Novella, Just Another Day. And daily life for Jeremy Wilson is now just another day, like every day of just another day. Until this day. On this day of just another day, Jeremy will wish he had never gotten out of bed. You've had days like that. I have. About 11:59 on the night of this day of just another day, the worst day of his life bar none. He might just think it was all worth it. But of course, he would. I don't know. Look, I've got to rewrite this. It's just like simple things. I've got to rewrite the whole thing. But I'll give you a little sample anyhow. It was dark, cold, raining, and Jeremy Wilson had just gotten up. He didn't want to vacate the comforting warmth of the bed at whatever ungodly hour it was on this morning of just another day. But he had to. But of course, he would. Throwing aside the covers, he had draped his legs over the edge of the bed, eased himself upright, teetered momentarily, then shuffled from the bedroom, favouring his right leg. He'd been sitting on the edge of the bed earlier on this dark, cold, wet morning of just another day, not because he couldn't sleep, but because he'd been abruptly woken by the alarm. Not the sort of alarm that buzzed or beeped, or rattled and dinked, or made some other hideous noise or sound that would wake the dead from eternal sleep, but the mild electric shock like fibrillating physical tick type alarm in his right calf muscle. There was always the precursor to something Jeremy had endured on and off with monotonous regularity for as long as he could remember. Cramps. Sometimes, if he was quick enough, he was able to grab hold of his toes and pull his foot backwards and prevent the muscle from knotting. But most of the time he wasn't. Most of the time, like it had been earlier on this miserable morning of just another day, Jeremy had to suffer the sheer gut-wrenching, nauseating, teeth-gritting, tears in his eyes, salivating, agonising, curse under his breath, wanting to scream from the pain as he crouched over with both hands, gripping his lower right leg while the calf muscle tied itself into a walnut-sized, rock-hard lump. Ooh. And it was always the right leg that cramped so, never the left. Only the little toe in his left foot cramped, but never his right. And it only did so when he was awake, as if a tiny invisible wrestler had gripped the digit in a toe hold and suddenly yanked it up and back and held it so for 10 or 20 painful seconds. God damn it! For several minutes Jeremy had gripped his calf like grim death before the muscle finally relaxed. And the pain had subsided to a dull ache and he was able to lie down and contemplate sleep. And he had slept. But no sooner had he closed his eyes, or so it seemed to Jeremy, was he awake again. But of course. Good God Almighty, he thought. Why didn't the urge present itself when I was virtually out of bed before? Maybe the urge was there then, but I was in so much pain I probably didn't notice it. His leg was still aching, but he knew it would be. So he decided to massage the muscle with the sole of his left foot and take his mind off the urge. And because the friction felt so good and he was so intent on what he was doing, he was able to ignore it. And in no time at all, he was feeling sleepy again. And his eyelids grew heavy. He rolled onto his left side. And it just so happened that his injured calf muscle came to rest and slotted neatly against the right arch of his left foot, which too felt good. And he went back to sleep. But not for long. Jeremy had woken, sighed, rolled over onto his right side, dozed, woken, rolled onto his back, tossed and turned, fidgeted, much to the chagrin of his wife, who mumbled a half-awake beration, before showing him her back as she rolled onto her left side, and quickly settled once again in blissful slumber. He'd rarely been bothered with this sort of thing in the not-too-distant past, but of late it seemed that every other morning of just another day, he was roused from sleep. And no matter what he did, no matter how many times he tried to put it off and convince himself that he could wait, there always came the time when it suddenly became a matter of some urgency, and he had to submit to the inevitable. When a man had to go, he just had to go. So Jeremy had gotten up. And because Jeremy was always in a semi-comatose state, when he had to get up in the early hours of the morning, on any day of just another day, his actions were slow and lethargic, feeling rather than seeing his way from the bedroom to the toilet, where, placing his left hand on the left door jamb and lowering his arm, he located the light switch, pressed it down, then winced from the sudden invasion of white light from the overhead incandescent bulb. He was on automatic pilot now, as he unfurled half a dozen squares of toilet paper and folded them along the perforations to form a thick wad, lifted the toilet lid and seat in one movement, straightened, spread his legs and prepared to relieve himself. But as he stood barefoot on the cold tile floor wearing only his cotton boxer shorts and singlet on this bleak morning of just another day, the resulting flow from the urgency he had felt was mediocre, to say the least. In fact, there was nothing but an intermittent dribble. He had the strangest feeling that his bladder was overflowing. How weird. Jesus Christ, he mumbled, as he stood patiently waiting, wriggling his toes, squinting, shivering, and listening to the plops of the drops rather than the gurgling cascade he had expected from the rude awakenings on this mongrel of a morning of just another day. Come on, he muttered, wriggling his penis and contracting his sphincter muscles. Let's go. The brief anal exercise proved effective as the dribble became a sudden spurt, followed almost immediately by a steady flow of instant relief. Jeremy sighed, closing his eyes and relaxing as the unabated torrent of liquid gradually released the pressure from his bladder as it frothed and foamed and bubbled in the bowl below. Was there anything else that gave much such instant relief, he thought? Well, yes. Yes, there was. An ejaculation. But it had been so long now since he'd experienced one of those that he'd almost forgotten what that felt like. Almost. A nicotine hit. Jeremy hadn't smoked for, well, he couldn't remember how long it'd been since he'd had a cigarette. But he could still remember what it felt like. Could even taste it now and then. How strange was that? Something cool to drink when he was really thirsty. Or something to eat when he was famished. And there were a whole host of other things. To be sure, if he was prepared to think about it. But at this particular time, this now, all Jeremy was thinking about was going back to bed. With the flow of urine only another past experience on this morning of just another day, Jeremy gently shook his penis to dodge what drops there were that would cede to the agitation in preparation for the final mopping up. Past experience had taught Jeremy that there was always, without exception, one drop of urine that absolutely refused to drop. No matter how diligent he was with his shake and squeeze routine, at least one globule always managed to secrete itself until he placed the works back inside the confines of his boxer shorts. Didn't matter so much when he was up and about during the day of just another day, when he wore underpants which were changed daily, like his singlet and socks. But with his bedtime boxer shorts, he didn't wear underpants. Too constrictive. And because they were usually changed weekly, unless he had an unexpected leak. Jeremy didn't like the feel of a damp cold patch against his skin. So a wad of toilet paper was always ready and waiting to soak up that elusive orb. With his toilet now complete, he dropped the wad into the bowl, lowered the seat and the lid. I just got a call for dinner. Flushed, realising the very instant he had pressed the button that he shouldn't have. Turned off the light. By the time the rush of water had filled the cistern and all was quiet, Jeremy was lying on his right side, under the covers, eyes closed, listening to the rain. Then the pain started. I gotta go. I'll leave it there for the time being. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, bye for now.